you to Vandergraaf for sponsoring this month's edition of Road to Recovery. Visit their website for more information about the Vandergraaf drum motor designed specifically for heavy industry applications.
Okay. Let's transition more into the public works segment. And I wanted to reference the Dodge 2020 construction outlook, where a lot of markets were a little bit down or maybe flat at best, but public works was one area where Dodge saw a little bit of optimism. I think you're calling for 4% growth within public works. And as we kind of came into 2020 and now we're into July, looking into August, it seems like public works is hanging on. I wonder if you can kind of characterize where that segment of construction is at right now, and how does it compare generally to all the other segments that Dodge is keeping an eye on?
Right, great question. Pre-COVID, we were looking at a 4% gain for public works. That includes street work, bridge work, water systems, sewer systems, and reclamation projects and whatnot. We have downgraded that with we're releasing a new forecast next week, and it'll point to a 6% decline for public works in 2020. On the upside of the market, street and bridge work is shaping up for a gain this year. We think certainly some projects got pushed forward in the schedule as less people were on the roads and whatnot. The weakness, though, has been on the environmental side. In terms of what's changed from that plus 4% to the minus 6% is, of course, COVID and the effect that that's had on state and local revenues. Pretty much across the board, revenues are down. Income taxes and gas taxes, toll taxes, tourism taxes related to hotel stays and whatnot. And of course, that has put state and local budgets under great pressure, and state and local budgets need to balance their budgets by law. So these type of projects are certainly, without backstopping by the federal government, these projects are certainly at risk as we go forward. And again, should there be no backstopping or nor support from the federal government in the future stimulus plan, we could be looking at a continuation of a pretty lean year in 2021 as well.
Okay. Kind of a good segue, too, to talk about what's happening in Washington, or maybe what's not happening in terms of an infrastructure bill. We saw within recent weeks, Richard, there was the House put forward the Moving Forward Act, and it's a $1.5 trillion bill. But we haven't seen much traction or any traction with that in the Senate. And I think the Trump administration already mentioned if it somehow makes its way to his desk, it's going to get vetoed. Yeah. So I'm wondering, is there any possibilities on an infrastructure bill within this calendar year, within 2020, for the construction industry to cling some hopes to? And you talked about funding. What can be done, or what realistically do you see maybe being done to kind of give our industry a boost?
Sure. I think, sadly, the thought of a large-scale infrastructure package prior to the election is pretty doubtful. What we're expecting to see, though, in terms of the low-hanging fruit that's sitting there in Congress is certainly the reauthorization of the FAST Act. That's the 5-year surface transportation bill. We're hoping that the core highway portion of that number comes in at around $300 billion over 5 years. That's kind of in the middle between where the Senate Public Works Committee is and where the House Committee is. So it seems to be a reasonable assumption. We're also expecting an update to the WRDA bill. That's the Water Resource Development Act. That's on a 2-year cycle. So the last one was in 2018. So it's up now. Again, bipartisan support, GOP to Dem, House to Senate for a reauthorization of the WRDA that will post increases over the 2018 version. So that's, I think, the low-hanging fruit. We think that gets done prior to the election for sure, and that would certainly provide a lot of stability for the construction industry as we go into the next fiscal year. I think it would also be very nice to see some of that support for state and local budgets that we just discussed in terms gaps that they're facing. But I think any grand plan, quite frankly, is going to have to wait till after the election and we see what the makeup of Congress is. So I think over the short term, we're more likely to see piecemeal activity as opposed to any grand plan.
Okay.
Thank you to Vandergraaf for sponsoring this month's edition of Road to Recovery. Visit their website for more information about the Vandergraaf drum motor designed specifically for heavy industry applications.